The haven of dawn asterisk, the Nebraska plains stretched wide and quiet under a sky bruised with dawn's first light. Dew clung to the tall grass, catching the pale glow like scattered diamonds. Sarah Miller, just 18, stood at the edge of a dirt road, her small suitcase heavy in her trembling hands. Her brown hair, tied back with a faded ribbon, fluttered in the cool morning breeze. Her parents, worn down by debt and despair, had made a choice no child should bear. They'd given her to Amos Carter, a farmer twice her age, a man whose name carried whispers of loneliness in the town of Willow Creek. Sarah's heart thudded, a frantic rhythm against the stillness. She was alone, bartered like livestock, her future tethered to a stranger. Asterisk, the farmhouse loomed ahead, its weathered boards gray under the rising sun. It was modest, with a sagging porch and windows that stared blankly at the fields. Sarah's boots crunched on the gravel as she approached, each step heavier than the last. Her parents' words echoed, "It's for the best, Sarah. He'll take care of you." But what did that mean? She'd heard the townsfolk's gossip Amos, the widower who spoke to no one, who worked his land in silence, who lived in a house as empty as his eyes. Was she to be his wife? His servant? Her stomach twisted, fear weaving images of cold hands and locked doors. Amos stood in the doorway, a tall figure with shoulders stooped by years of labor. His face was lined, his hair streaked with gray, but his eyes held no malice, only a faintly atalia. Quiet weariness, like a man who'd seen too much loss. He nodded once, stepping aside. "Come in," he said, his voice low, rough as the earth he tilled. Sarah hesitated, clutching her suitcase tighter, then crossed the threshold. The house smelled of wood smoke and coffee, its walls adorned with faded photographs and a single cross-stitch sampler. Home is where the heart rests. Her throat tightened. Where was her home now? Asterisk inside, the air was warm but heavy with silence. Amos pointed to a small room off the hall. "That's yours," he said, gesturing to a narrow bed with a patchwork quilt and a window overlooking the fields. "Supper's at 6. Then he turned, his boots scuffing the floor as he left her standing there. Sarah set her suitcase down, her fingers lingering on the handle. She waited for something, a demand, a leer, a hint of what he expected. But the house stayed quiet, save for the distant creak of a windmill spinning in the breeze. She sat on the bed, the quilt soft under her palms, and stared at the walls, wondering what kind of life she'd been given to. Days passed, slow and strange. Sarah woke each morning braced for the worst, her body tense as she listened for Amos's footsteps. But he kept his distance. He showed her the garden, teaching her to weed carrots and tie tomato stalks, his hand steady but never touching hers. At dawn he milked the cow, nodding for her to try, his voice patient as she fumbled with the pail. "Gentle," he'd say, "like you're asking her permission." At night, he ate across from her at the oak table, the clink of forks loud in the quiet. He asked no questions, made no demands. Sarah's fear began to shift, replaced by annoying confusion. Why was she here if not to serve him? Asterisk, the town's whispers followed her. On Sundays, when Amos drove her to church in his rattling truck, she felt the stares. "Poor girl," they murmured, "given to that hermit like a sacrifice." Sarah kept her head down, her cheeks burning. She wanted to scream that nothing had happened, that Amos hadn't laid a hand on her, but who would believe her? The stories had already taken root, painting her as a victim, Amos as a monster. At night, she lay awake, the quilt pulled to her chin, wondering if she'd ever feel safe again or if safety was just another thing her parents had traded away. Asterisk one afternoon, as rain tapped the windows, Sarah wandered to the attic, seeking solitude. The air was thick with dust, the floorboards creaking under her weight. Amid boxes and old furniture, she found a leather-bound journal. its pages yellowed but filled with Amos's careful handwriting. She hesitated, then opened it, guilt prickling her skin. The words told a story she hadn't expected. A young Amos, married to a woman named Mary, their joy at the birth of a daughter, Ellie. Then grief Mary and Ellie lost to a fever when Ellie was only 3. Amos wrote of his failure, his loneliness, his vow to honor them by helping someone else. I can't save them, he'd written, but maybe I can save her. Sarah's breath caught, tears blurring the ink. The journal fell to her lap. She saw it now. Amos hadn't taken her for himself. He'd taken her to give her a chance, a home, a life her parents couldn't afford. The weight of her fear, her shame crumbled. She wasn't a bride or a servant. She was a girl he'd chosen to protect, not possess. The realization was a quiet thunder, shifting everything she thought she knew. She closed the journal, her hands trembling, and descended the stairs. The house feeling different, warmer, softer, like a place that could hold her. That evening, Amos sat by the fire, whittling a piece of cedar. Sarah stood in the doorway, the journal tucked under her arm. I found this, she said, her voice steady but soft. He looked up, his hand stilling, and for a moment she saw fear in his eyes, not of her, but of being seen. I'm sorry, she added. I shouldn't have read it. He set the wood down, his gaze dropping to the fire. It's all right, he said. You needed to know. Why didn't you tell me? She asked, stepping closer. About Mary, about Ellie, about why I'm here? Amos exhaled, his shoulders heavy. Didn't want you to feel like a burden or a project. You're here because you deserve better than what you had? Sarah's eyes stung. She sat across from him, the journal between them. You could have told the town. Let them know you're not. What they think, he shook his head. Folks believe what they want. Doesn't change what's true. The fire crackled, filling the silence. Sarah felt something new, a warmth, not just from the flames, but from the man who'd given her a roof without asking for her soul. Thank you, she whispered, for giving me a home. Amos met her eyes, a faint smile breaking through. You're welcome, Sarah. The days that followed were softer, lighter. Sarah threw herself into the farm, learning to mend fences, bake bread, even laugh at Amos's dry humor. He taught her to drive the tractor, his patience endless as she stalled it in the mud. At night, they shared stories, hers of a childhood spent dreaming of stars, his of a life shaped by love and loss. The town still whispered, but Sarah no longer cared. She wasn't their story to tell. One spring morning, Amos handed her an envelope. Inside was a deed to a small plot of land on the edge of his farm. It's yours, he said. Build a house, a life, whatever you want. You're not bound to me. Sarah's throat tightened. She hugged him, fierce and quick, feeling the strength of a man who'd carried her burdens without ever claiming her freedom. I'll stay, she said, not because I have to, but because I want to. Amos nodded, his eyes bright with something like pride. Then we'll make this place a home, together. The farmhouse bloomed with new life. Sarah planted flowers along the porch, their colors bright against the gray wood. Amos built a swing for the oak tree, and sometimes they sat there, watching the sunset paint the fields gold. The town's whispers faded, replaced by curiosity, then respect. Sarah wasn't a victim, and Amos wasn't a villain. They were two souls who'd found each other in the quiet, who'd turned a barter into a bond. And as the seasons turned, Sarah learned the truth that Amos had known all along. Home isn't just a place. It's the people who choose you, who see you, who give without taking. She'd come to the farm afraid, but she'd stay forever grateful for a man who'd shocked the world not with cruelty, but with kindness. So, listen closely to the stories you hear. Look beyond the whispers, the judgments, the fear. Sometimes the truth is quieter, deeper, and far more beautiful. Share this story, let it linger, and ask yourself, who in your life needs a haven? Build it for them. Start today.